Go ahead.
It's Mayor Muriel Bowser. She's joining us. She's Washington, D.C.'s 7th elected mayor. She's pledged to bring a fresh start to the District of Columbia, creating pathways to the middle class for residents and foster a culture of inclusion, transparency, and action. And she really has done that. As mayor, she has expanded opportunities across all 8 wards of D.C. by strengthening job training programs and by attracting and retaining jobs within Washington, D.C. Please welcome the mayor of the District of Columbia, Mayor Muriel Bowser. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I'm delighted to be here with you. I am Muriel Bowser. I am mayor of the best city in the world, soon to be the 51st state in the United States, with your help. And I'm always happy to be among millennials. Now, I'm not one. They call me Generation X, but I love millennials. I love the energy that you bring to our city and to our workforce. And when we look across the District of Columbia, among the fastest growing jurisdictions anywhere in the United States, our growth is driven by millennials. We know and we focus on what you're going to need to be successful in the workplace, what you're going to need to be able to raise your families in cities like Washington, and we're always looking to you for fresh ideas. So it brings me pleasure to welcome you to Washington, D.C. I'm very happy to hear that you've gotten out to see part of the city, and I am just delighted that MCON is here in Washington. Give them a big round of applause. And my friend Jean Case at the Case Foundation and National Geographic for supporting this important event. Many people, when they think of Washington, D.C., don't always think of it as a young person's town. And I'm glad you're here, because this is not your grandfather's or great-grandfather's Washington, D.C. Many people will think of this city as only a government town. In fact, I can go to some places and talk to mayors or legislatures, and they literally think nobody lives in Washington, D.C. They think of the Capitol and the White House and the acrimony, and that's it. But in fact, almost 700,000 people live in Washington across the 8 wards of our city. We are also, I mentioned already, fast growing. We have a net gain in our population. People move here, people move away, people born, people move on, transition. 1,000 people every month. Imagine that, 1,000 people we add to our population. So you can see in the foreseeable future, we will be over 1 million people in the District of Columbia. So when we think about what 1 million people need, we know that our transportation network has to be improved. We know that our schools and education system have to be able to accommodate more families. We also know that we are going to have more people looking for opportunities in Washington. And we're happy about that, because the fact of the matter is we have seen, I've been the mayor of D.C. for about 1.5 years. And in that time, we have seen the unemployment in our city go down by 1 full percentage point and 3 full percentage points in our most challenged wards. And that's very good news. Your peers are moving here in large numbers. And what's different, young people have always moved to Washington. What's different about this point in time is that young people are staying in Washington. Millennials represent about 35% of our population, and that's a full 10 percentage points higher than the national average. And we think that you like D.C. because of rich opportunities available here in jobs, but also we are in fact a young person's town. We have great restaurants, and what we know about millennials is you like to go out, right? I like great restaurants. We have a vibrant and growing arts and culture scene in DC as well. Our nightlife is rich environment. We are bikeable. We have invested tons in our bike network in DC, from bike lanes to bike racks on buses to our renowned year-round bike share program where we just launched a $2 ride. We're also a walkable city. We've been named among the most walkable, I think the most walkable in the United States. And when you look at some of the other data, many fewer people in DC even own cars. So this is a place where you get a good job, you don't have to have a car, and you're going to find a great place to live here as well. So we see, as I mentioned, we're no longer so federal government focused. Now, we love having the federal government here, but you all know about sequestration and what that has meant. It means that the federal government is not growing. So we have really focused in our administration on how we continue to diversify our economy. And we're very focused on tech. And we're very focused on how we can support entrepreneurs, not only start, but grow here in Washington, D.C. We have, in fact, we think our niche is inclusive tech. We're reaching out to populations that are underrepresented in tech communities, including women and minorities. We recently launched a partnership with Howard University to have an inclusive tech hub on one of our main thoroughfares in the district, and we look forward to that opening this fall. So keep an eye out for DC when you're talking about tech, when you're thinking about startups, and you're thinking about opportunities to start and grow your own businesses. We have over 1,000 tech startups, and we are on really listed all kinds of publications as one of the top cities for innovators and entrepreneurs. And we are very focused on finding our sweet spot. Many of you will go down to South by or have been to South by, and we have invested in a huge presence in South by for that reason. So I think last year was our second year where we basically take over a restaurant in Austin and it becomes DC in Austin. And our companies like to support it because the energy around attracting talent is critical to their growth. When I think about other cities that are known for tech in Silicon Valley or in Boston, the advantage that they have over us is a critical mass of people involved in tech. So we're doing our part to make sure that we have an ecosystem that will support growth. But we also know what they tell us is that we need space, we need more tech companies, and we need the talent. And that's you. You're the talent. So that's why we're so focused on attracting you to the District of Columbia. I'll say, and I started off, and as part of all the remarks that I make to people who are visiting us from around the country, I start off by saying we're the best city, which is true, and that we would be the 51st state, which is also true. But we need your support in that. On our ballot this fall, we will have a question for DC residents if they want to become the 51st state. And I'll just say why it's important to us. We're just like you, Americans that pay federal taxes, yet we don't have 2 senators and we have no vote. So all the discussion that's going on in the Congress, we don't participate in. So I just ask you to think, there will be a time when your Congress people will be asked to admit DC as the 51st state, and we hope that you will give them a nudge to do exactly that. Now, I have an honor right now to introduce somebody who has been very critical to the renaissance of Washington. I mentioned that we are a growing food capital, and we are. We have great restaurants. I was proud that so many of our restaurateurs stood with us recently to promote raising the wages in Washington, and we want that to happen all across our country to get to $15 an hour. And I had the privilege of being with this gentleman at a graduation ceremony. Not only is he opening great restaurants and hiring DC residents, but he's helping to train residents who need a fresh start in their own lives. And there are good jobs to be had in the food industry. And this is a man of conviction. And he stood before these graduates, tearful, saying how proud he was of them, that they had reached a milestone in their lives that he had never reached in his life. life, yet he had achieved just remarkable success. And I'm a huge fan of this next gentleman who I know knows a lot about millennials and can tell you so much more. He's kind of plays where the puck is going, and playing off of what Mr. Gretzky said years ago. Not where we are, but where we're going. And this is a food innovator, Jose Andres.